The United States and Israel are coordinating attack on strategic targets in Iran, said tonight military maps, talk statement from leader. On create the feeling that history is turning before our eyes. The news is no longer just news. It feels like a turning point. But what makes me stop is not the operation map, not the political noise, not the electricity debate, but the process of the Bible. The Bible says in Jeremiah 49 verse 39, "Very well, I will fork the bow of Elam, modern day Iran, the strongest of their power." The context of the word bow here referred to the archery skill of the Elamites at the time, their best weapon. Verse 39 says the context for this happened. In the last day, this phrasing points to the near end time in the original Hebrew language. Trump attacked Iran nuclear arsenal a few months ago, fulfilling the promise of the power of Iran being destroyed as described in verse 35. Verse 38 said, "I will set my throne in Elam." Iran has a history of violence against its ally, but we are now witnessing architects in the fastest growing construction movement there. Verse 38 also states that God will destroy the king and ruler from there. Trump has directly launched missiles at the position of the supreme leader. The main goal of this war is to establish a new regime. It sounds very fitting. It sounds very timely. It sounds like the Bible was just written for today's news. But the Bible wasn't written to fit us into every chain. And if we are going to be really in dark about the test, the question to ask isn't, does it look the same? But rather, does the test really say what we are attributing to it beyond the historical context, geographical analysis, and Hebrew language? I believe there is enough basics to assess that Jeremiah 49 is being directly experienced through the current Israel events. Here's why. Reason 1. Historical context. A specific prophecy for the 6th century BCE. Jeremiah 49:34 begins very clearly. The word of the Lord came to the prophet Jeremiah concerning Elam at the beginning of the reign of Jecadiah king of Judah. This verse is from 597 BCE. This detail plays a first knowledge at a specific historical moment. This is not a timeless prophecy, but is spoken within the specific political context of the 6th century BCE, when Babylon were dangerously rising and restructuring the entire regional power order. Elam at this time was a song of real value to Judah and laboring nation. When Jeremiah declared that God would break the canon of Elam, 49:35, contemporary listener understood it as a judgment on the military strength of a nation existing in their old time, and history is found. Elam weakened amidst regional power shift. It wasn't incorporated into the Persian Empire. It gradually disappeared as an independent state. Many scholars therefore see this as a direct historical application of the prophecy. If we want to transfer this prophecy into the 12th century, we must demonstrate that this ancient deposition was not fully fulfilled, and that the text itself asks for the much broader explanation. But upon reading the text I examined, I found no such requirement. Reason 2. Geography identity. Elam is not modern Iran. I often hear the argument, Elam was located in West Nile Iran, therefore Iran is Elam. At first glance, that sounds reasonable. Geographically, there's overlap, but geography alone does not equal identity. Elam was an ancient Near Eastern kingdom centered in the southwest region of today Iran. It has its own language, Elamite, its own political structure, and its own distinct culture. identity. That civilization declined and was eventually absorbed into larger imperial system. There is no continuous political, ethnic, or national line stretching uninterrupted for 2,600 years from ancient Elam to the modern Islamic Republic of Iran. Between those 2 points, history stands the Achaemenid Persian Empire, the Hellenistic period under Alexander's successor, the Parthian Empire, the Sassanid Empire, the Islamic Arab conquest, century of demographic, linguistic, and religious transformation. Modern Iran is primarily shaped by Persian identity, Islam history, and later political development, not by a preserved Elamite national continuity, the land of Elam, but political identity, ethnic composition, language, religion, and state structure do not. To equate Elam directly with modern Iran is to collapse millennia of complex history into a single straight line, and history does not work that way. Ancient territorial overlap does not automatically produce modern prophetic continuity. That distinction matters. Reason 3. I will break the bow of Elam. Jeremiah 49:35 states, I will break the bow of Elam, the head of the power. In Old Testament literature, breaking the bow is a familiar military idiom. It simply means to dismantle or defeat the military power of a nation. This image appears in many plays to describe the collapse of a nation's world capability, not a specific future weapon. The bows here symbolize Elam's primary military power in the context of the 6th century BCE. It is figurative language, but an image with specific historical significance. There is no indication in the text that the bow must be updated to a mission or understood as the most advanced weapon of all time. If I define the bow as the most powerful weapon of a nation in any age, then this phrase could apply to almost every war in history, from the Middle Age to modern time. But when a prophecy can fit into many different events, it loses specificity, and a prophecy that loses specificity also loses its ability to clearly define what it is actually saying. Therefore, the most natural reading remains breaking the bow, meant to bring down the military power of Elam in its whole historical context, not a broad metaphor for own weapon in every century. Reason 4. The latter day, the end time, or the future period. Jeremiah 49:39 says, in the latter day I will restore the fortune of Elam. The Hebrew phrase Acharit Hayamin does not automatically mean the end of the world. In many Old Testament contexts, it simply refers to the future period relative to the original audience, not necessarily the final moment of human history. Therefore, reading this phrase as a definitive reference to global eschatology must be demonstrated from the text itself, not assumed in advance. But what makes me pause even more is the context of verse 39. The prophecy does not end with destruction, it ends with restoration. If I apply the judgment portion to modern Iran, I must also apply the restoration. Restoration in one sense, political restoration, ethnic or nation restoration, spiritual restoration, a religious movement. If I cannot clearly define what the restoration would mean in the modern context, then applying the prophecy today becomes selective, taking the breaking of the bow by ignoring the restoration. And when interpretation becomes selective, it is no longer explaining the text, it is adjusting the text to fit a present narrative. That is what makes me caution the danger of reading news and then matching it to the Bible verse. Christian history shows a recurring pattern. World War I were interpreted as a one set of the apocalypse. World War II were read through the lens of revelation. The Cold War was viewed as an Armageddon. Every generation had its own reason to believe it is living in the end time. That doesn't make the Bible wrong, but it highlights an important truth. People are highly susceptible to interpreting current events through the fear or the desire to confirm that already thing. I don't want to read the Bible that way. I want to understand it on its own term, in its historical, linguistic, and theological context, rather than forcing it to fit today's headline. My personal opinion, I believe the Bible is serious and reliable revelation. And precisely because I believe this, I don't want to use like a prophetic newspaper to justify every airstrike, every military maneuver, or every censored headline. When reading Jeremiah 49, its fire takes place in a very specific historical context. The word of Lord came to the prophet Jeremiah concerning Elam. At the beginning of the reign of Jecadiah king of Judah, I see a judgment bearing the familiar military imagery of that area. I will break down the bow of Elam, the head of the strength, and I see it, and not with absolute destruction, but with the promise of restoration. In the last day I will bring back the side of Elam. I have not seen enough textual, historical, or Semitic basic to assert that this prophecy is being directly fulfilled in the current Iran-Israel conflict. The identification of ancient Elam with modern Iran, and then adapting the bow to missile or nuclear weapon, requires step of deduction that the text itself does not compel us to follow. What I see more clearly is not an apocalyptic event, but a broader principle, a recurring pattern in human history. Power rise, fall, weapon change, empire change, but the fragility of human power remains unchanged. Ancient texts should be read with academic integrity, respecting their original context, not with the rush of current event, or the pressure to find an immediate fulfillment in tonight news. If one day is a truly clear eschatological fulfillment, I believe it will be clear enough that there's no need to focus or patch political maps onto the ancient text. For now, I choose caution, not because of lack of faith, but precisely because I want to keep the faith from being forced to chase after every change in history. And before I conclude, I want to pause for a moment, not for analysis, but for prayer. Lord, in a world filled with the noise of wars, news, predictions, and controversy, keep our heart at peace. Grant us wisdom in reading the Bible, not with fear, but with grieving. Not to prove ourselves right, but understand you better. God is always with us, not just in time of peace, but even in the most uncertain days. And if you are reading the life with many questions in your heart, about prophecy, about war, about faith, I hope you know that you are not alone in this search. If you would like me to analyze another passage of scripture, a specific theological topic, or a particular historical perspective, please leave a comment below. I greatly appreciate deep and respectfully dialogue. If this contest has given you pause for thought, please hit like so that more people can access this conversation. And if you want to continue exploring the Bible with me in a careful, honest, and non-extremist way, subscribe to the channel you don't miss any more content. May God grant your peace and wisdom today and in every day to come.